Welcome back to our channel, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to animate a head turn in Adobe Animate using the Halves method. I'm also going to teach you how to use Adobe After Effects to color correct your animation and add glow. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to do the easing plans. We're going to analyze the head turn and create the easing plan. And then I'm going to show you how to do Keyposes, breakdowns, and in-betweens using that plan. And then we're going to do cleanup and color and finally the shading. So all of this is still in Adobe Animate, and we're going to export this as SWF. And then we're gonna import the SWF in After Effects, and then we're gonna try different colors, we're gonna try different mood, and then we're gonna add glow. So this video is sponsored by Huion, and I'm going to use the Huion Kamvas 16 Pro 2.5K. And we're also going to record using this phone so that you can see this product in action. And if you're interested to buy this product, the link is in the description. So this video is going to be long, and that is because I will really explain my process. And with this now, a different angle, you're now going to see how I will draw, you're going to see how I will animate. And that could be a lot for some. This could be a lot of information. So please feel free to take a break and pause. So in this video, we really try to fit in a lot of concept, and that is why it is long. But if you're interested in a more bite-sized, focused set of lessons, then you can join our channel. By paying a small monthly fee, you'll get access to the full frame-by-frame animation lesson library. The lessons in the library are very well designed, and in there, we'll focus one concept at a time. There will be lectures, demonstration, and exercises. And we'll give feedback on your assignments too if you want. So if you're interested in this kind of learning, then you can click the join button below, or if the join button is not there for some reason, you can click the link in the description. So now let's get back to the tutorial. So this is the design. Meg was the one who designed this, and I'm just gonna animate it. So Meg is our character designer, and now I'm gonna import the design to our animate file. So I'm just gonna drag this here. So now this is now the design. It's an image, and I'm just gonna rename this to a guide image, and then I'm gonna right click and then click properties, and then I'm gonna change the opacity to 50%, or you could change this whatever you want. Now I'm gonna click OK, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to trace the line art. We need to match the thickness of our brush. So this is the classic brush tool. The shortcut of that is B. And we need to make sure that this one is the same with our guide, right? So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to trace now the line art. So I think it's already matched, and currently I'm using 8. So you can either adjust your brush size using the close bracket and open bracket on your keyboard, or you could click this one and change the size manually if you know the number. So I think Mag used number 8. Now I'm just gonna trace this. So F4, the F4 is the shortcut of hiding the panels. So now I have finished tracing the line art. So if I'm gonna hide this guide image, it's now like that. And this is the layer where we're going to animate. So my plan for this is going to be the last frame, right? So first she's going to look this way, still in a 3/4 angle, and then she's gonna rotate here. So I'm just gonna like demonstrate that. So the first is, this is gonna be the first pose, and she's gonna like look this way, and then she's going to like turn her head like this, right? So that's my idea. That's like what I want this animation to be. But even before we like start to animate, I would like to discuss planning your spacing. So this is like a pseudo easing guide, right? So I have here three lines, one, two, three. And let's just say that this line is would represent the side view of the character, side view facing to the left, and this one is the side view facing to the right. And so this is our first frame, and this is our last frame, right? And if we're gonna like create an in-between using the halves method, meaning the exact half of the action, what we'll get is we'll have a front view. Now, if we're going to get the half of the side view and the front view, what we'll have, so this frame now, what we'll have is an angle that is 3/4 view. And if we're going to like create a like the half of this frame and this frame, which is the front view and the side view facing to the right, so the half of that is the same with this, but just on the other side. So it's a 3/4 view facing on this direction. But in our animation, we don't really need the side view anymore, right? Because what we are starting with is the 3/4 view and then turning to this side here. So let's just delete this one because we don't need them anymore. But notice that we needed this frame, this one, and the front view to like easily create this, right? So just keep that in mind because that information will be handy later on. So for now, let's just simplify our guide because we don't need the side views. I'm just gonna delete this. So we already have this frame, right? This one is this one, right? So later on, we're also gonna create this. And once we have created this, we could now like do like the front view, right? And if we're gonna like just do an in-between and we strictly like do the halves method. So the next that we're gonna do is we're gonna create the half of this and this, right? And then the half of this and this one. And then we're gonna create like the half of like the newly created frames, right? So we're gonna create the half of this, and also here, and this one, and this one. But the problem of this is that the spacing would be equal. And we don't want that because our animation would look unnatural. It's gonna look robotic. So for example, like if I'm going to turn my head from here to here, I don't know if you notice in the camera, but my speed or the like my movement is, it's not consistent speed, right? The speed isn't consistent. It speeds up and then slows down. It speeds up here from a stop position, and when I begin to move, it's going to like speed up here and then slows down when I would like settle my pose here. So it's going to be like that, right? So we can't, or we need to modify this. So we need to redistribute the frames that it's slow on this side and this side. So how do we do that? So let's like make a mock-up of like this. So I'm just gonna like lock this blue line here, or blue curve, and I'm just gonna erase this one here at the middle, right? So we already have this, And we're gonna do this one first, right? So once we have both of these frames, the next that we're gonna do is get the half of it because we're gonna use the halves method. Once we have the half, it's now easier to do the other in-betweens because we could now base it from this one and this one, right? So we're gonna create the half of this and also the half of this. Now, when we are going to create or continue our in-betweens, we're not anymore gonna in-between here, but we're going to continue on either side. So for example, here, I'm going to create a half of this, but I'm not anymore gonna create a half of this, but here I can, right? And if I want, I could continue on with this. I could continue cutting this to half. And as you can see, you could look at the spacing now. It gets bigger and bigger. So with this progression, it would feel like it's accelerating. So I'm gonna undo that. And for the other side, we can continue like adding in-betweens on like the end part, not here, right? So this one, we're gonna create an in-between. This one we can't anymore, but this one we can. And then we could continue on with this, right? As you can see, the spacing would be smaller and smaller. But if we like strictly just do halves method, we encounter a different problem. Because from here, you can see, right? From here, the spacing is gradually increasing. It's doubling up. And when it slows down, it's dividing into two. But the problem is the first 3 frames and the last 3 frames, the spacing between them are equal. And the spacing here are equal, right? So it's not really like, it's not decelerating or it's not accelerating. So what we're gonna do for this specific frame, we're gonna favor it on this side. And on the last frame, we're not gonna do it exactly half, but we're gonna favor it on this side here. So this way, it will still have, you'll notice that the spacing would still like gradually increase, and here it will gradually decrease. So this is now our plan, and I'm just gonna copy this, and I'm going to include this blue curve. So I'm gonna copy that, and let's bring it to our project here. I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'm gonna paste it here. And I'm just gonna make this a bit smaller, so I'm gonna press Q on my keyboard. And let's bring this smaller. This is our easing plan. And I'm just gonna rename this as easing space plan. So next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the Keyposes and then the breakdown. So this is our easing plan, right? So I have here the green color because we're just gonna swap this. I'm gonna use the green to mark the Keypose or the frames here that are already done. So we have finished like the last frame. So I'm just maybe mark it here. I was wondering why the brush is coloring below. That's because my brush is set to paint behind, so I'm gonna set it to paint normal. So I'm gonna mark this. This one's already done. Or I'm just gonna maybe create a new layer, and this is my marking if that frame is already done. So that's already done. This one's already done. So now we need to like I need this frame. I'm gonna drag it all the way here. I don't know how long this animation would be, so I'm just like eyeballing it. I'm just like estimating it for now. For this one, I'm gonna click this frame, I'm gonna press F5. Right, again, I don't know how long this video would be or this like animation would be. And I'm just gonna bring these 2 guides here to expose this all the way here. So I'm selecting these both frames, and then I'm gonna click F5. So we have finished this one. That's the last frame. This is that, right? So now I'm gonna do the first frame. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy this and then press Command Shift V, or that's Control Shift V if you're working on a Windows computer. That is the shortcut for paste in place. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna press L. That's the shortcut for the lasso tool, and I'm just gonna like draw this out, and then I'm gonna press Q on my keyboard, and then I'm going to click now, right click. So make sure that your cursor is hovered towards the drawing, and then click right click, and then go to transform and then flip horizontal, right? So now I don't have to draw this again, right? Because basically the shape is like the same, right? The drawing is symmetrical. And let's turn on the onion skin right here and adjust the onion skin so we could see like the first, I mean the last frame. And this one, I'm just gonna rotate this. So this is now going to be the first frame, something like that. And then let's adjust this. I'm just gonna press L. That's a shortcut for lasso. So I'm just gonna like lasso this out. So select that and press backspace. And I'm gonna press B again on my keyboard, and I'm just gonna like try to correct this one. So there's still like a bit of mistake here, because we can't just simply like flip like the head and like the, for example, the neck stays the same, right? So for example, if you look here, this is like my pose, right? My body is facing here, and if I'm gonna like look over there, you'll see that there's a bit of like stress in this part of like my neck, right? So if you're going to look at this is that, right? The pose is there's like that twisting of the neck, right? So this pose is there's like stress like over here and also on this like muscle. But if I'm gonna face on like the direction where my body is facing, this part here is now right relaxed. So we can't really like use this pose. So we need to modify it, right? And also like the necklace. So I'm going to like lasso this part here and then delete that. And I'm just going to adjust the neck and like the body. So I'm going to lasso that out, and I'm going to remove like the stress points on like the neck, right? And just connect it with like the body here. And we also like need to make some subtle changes to the position of like our body, right? Because again, from here and I'm gonna face there, you'll see that there's gonna be a slight movement. So this pose is already done, right? So if I'm going to bring it here, there's going to be like slight movements of the body. So we are going to do that too. So the necklace, we're gonna change like the we're going to change like the position of this. And also this one, it's gonna be somewhere here. And so like I'm gonna just lasso this out. And I'm going to like redraw this, that we have that subtle like movement. And also this part here, we need to also adjust that. So let's have a look at our like animation. I think it's working now. And for this one, I'm just gonna clean up like the shadow, this one. So I'm just gonna adjust the easing plan, and this both of these, I'm gonna select them and then press V on my keyboard and then move this here. So we already have finished, so I'm going to like click the color green. So we have finished this and also this frame, right? This one is this frame and this one is this frame. So we have finished that, right? So next, these are our key poses. So now we are gonna do the first in between, which is this one. But this is not really an in between. What we're gonna do is a breakdown. Okay, so I'm gonna explain an in between. So for example, this one, I'm gonna press like F7 and just the onion skin all the way here. And then an in between is just like a straight in between like the position of your like body parts. Like for example, the eye. So it's just going to like, for example, this one. You're going to in between this and this, so the location is somewhere here. And if we're gonna in between this and this one, the location is somewhere here. And the nose, it would be somewhere here, and the mouth would be somewhere here. That would be like the direct in between, right? But we're going to like from in between, we're gonna make this into a breakdown. Because why? Because when we move, it's not really like straight, like moving in that direction, right? Because it's gonna look like robotic. When we move, there's like an arc, right? So when my like head is going to look in this direction, it's like I'm exaggerating it, but even like when we naturally like move our head, it's not gonna be like a straight line, right? There's going to be like some sort of arc. But since this is like animation, we are like going to exaggerate this a bit. So we're gonna bring like the head like in an arc, so the head is like going to be here. And since it doesn't like follow like a straight line, this is considered as a breakdown. And before we like begin to do the breakdowns, let's simplify the shapes into like a more simpler shape. So I'm just gonna turn on the outline mode for this one, and so this is gonna be our cleanup or our tie down layer, and we're gonna go back to this. But for now, let's simplify this into basic shapes. So the way I simplify this is I'm gonna start with the skull, or like a sphere, and I'm going to locate the eye line. So the eye line is here. And normally I would divide, like, I'm going to divide the head into, I'm just going to lock this. I'm going to press F4 again. I'm just going to lock this layer so that I don't accidentally like draw or delete drawings. And let me just adjust this. Yeah, this is going to be like my sphere. And then this is going to be like the eye line. And from the eye line, we could now divide like the head into two. We have the upper part and we have the lower part. And we have like the ear. So the ear, I'm just like going to simplify like the ear like that. And for the eye, let's analyze how to draw the eye of the design. So normally I would like break this down into points. Like how many points do I need to make in order to draw something like this? So it feels like we have 1, 2, and 3 points. So it's like 1, 2, and then just curve something. So we have an eye shape that looks like this: 1, 2, and 3. And that would be the same here: 1, 2, and then 3. And the way we draw the brow, we could also like divide this into points. I think 1, 2, 3, and 4, or we could remove that again, just 3 points. But it feels like the brow is like we go up and down and then connect, right? We have like this shape. And the nose is like 1 point, 2, 3, 4. So it's like go back, forward, and back, right? So I'm simplifying, but it feels like that. And this one, and then just a smile for the mouth. And we need to draw in like also the hair. This one's simple enough. So I'm just gonna copy this. For the like goggles, we need to simplify this. So I'm just gonna simplify this into like one cylinder. But later on, as we do the cleanup, we do the tie down, we will like add details to this, right? But for now, I'm just gonna like go forward with this. And we have those 2 cylinders and this shape, something like that. And for the hair, you can see that the hair has also a bit of volume. I mean the what do you call this? A ponytail. So it's not just like that. It's like you have a base. You have like this one here, but it has this like cut. But just to simplify, or I think this is like basic enough, so I could already like add that in. And for the other side, so this is like part of the hair. It's gonna look like this. And another thing that we need to like also like break down is to identify like the center of your head. So I'm gonna make it this one's part of the center. It's gonna be like that, right? That's important as we are going to like animate this. We need this like guy. And also for this part here, we need to like also break this down. So I'm just gonna press F7, and I'm just gonna press L on my keyboard, and I'm going to lasso this here and copy this because basically it's just the same, right? So I'm just gonna paste it here, and then I'm gonna press Q, and then right click, make sure you hover your cursor to the drawing, and then go to transform, and then flip horizontal, and I'm just gonna match the one that is the more cleaned up version. Just gonna match that, and then let's draw in a more like simplified look on this. Doesn't need to be like super clean. So now we're good with this one. We have like broken that down, and now let's do our first breakdown. Okay, so I'm gonna press F7 here, and now we are gonna do this frame, right? And we're not like going to make this like a straight line. We want this to have an arc, right? So the head is gonna go down a bit. So I'm gonna press F4, and let's do that. So the center line, right? So that's why it's important to like identify where the center line is, right? So now the center line is gonna be somewhere here, right? And now let's like draw like the eye line. So the eye line, if we're just gonna do an in between, that's gonna be here, but we're gonna do a breakdown, right? So the breakdown of this is this character is gonna like look down a bit, so it's gonna be here, and let's draw the chin, and like the half of the hair, this one, right? The hair is something like that. So if we're just gonna do a straight in between, that's gonna be here. But since we're like having the character look down a bit, it's gonna go down a bit too. So I'm going through like the frames back and forth just to make sure that I have the drawing correctly, that this part is here, right? So if we have this kind of part, we also have like that shape in the other side. And the cylinder, as it goes down, so it's gonna be maybe somewhere here. So the hair would be somewhere here. I normally would like to add like some sort of like delay or drag on the hair, but I normally just add in that at the start as a guide, and I'm just gonna like go back on this and redraw the hair later and to add like drag. But for now, let's just like add in like the hair based on like our like drawings. And now the shape of the eye, right, is 1, 2, and 3. But what I want for the eye is I want the eye to be closed, right? So this is just a guide, but I want the eye to be closed here. And the nose, it's gonna be somewhere here. And then the mouth and the brow. And then the ear, it's gonna be above. So when we are like looking down, so if you look here, if we're gonna like notice my ear, right? If I'm gonna like look down, you'll see that this one would go above like my eyebrow, right? So if my head, my like eyes goes down, this one is like a little bit above. So let's apply that here. So I think this one now is like good. But when we also like move our head, so for example, we move our head, if we're gonna look down, it's not just like the face like move down like that, but the neck, this one is also gonna bring the whole head down, right? So this one, I need to select this and bring this down a bit. So something like that. And for the like part, the rest of the body, I'm just gonna do a straight in between. So this is just using the halves method, just the exact half of this. and I'm gonna press F4, and now let's preview. So let me hide. So I'm just gonna like rename this as our tie down, because this is going to be our tie down later. This one is going to be our rough animation. So or simply rough. And let's have a preview again. So I think I placed the head a bit too down, too low. So I'm just gonna lasso this and bring this up a bit, something like that. And let's have a look. I think this one's better. So I'm just gonna update our timing guide. So now we have finished this frame. So now we have finished the key poses and then the one breakdown, and now we're gonna do like the in-betweens. And we're gonna use this guide for our in-betweens, right? So we have to do this first before doing this one, because remember, this one is based off of this and this, right? It's the half of this and this. So, and this one here is the half of this and this. So if you don't do this first, it's hard to do this and the rest of the frames, right? So we need to do this, then this one next, and this one next, and this one next. So that's going to be half, 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 and half, right? And this last one favored here. So it's not exactly half. It's a bit favored on this frame here. So we're gonna do this one first. So I'm gonna switch to red, and let me undo that. It has changed this color, so I'm gonna like lock both of them first and then click here. So again, this frame, this one is this frame here, right? This, and this one is this frame, and this one is this frame. And so this is what we're gonna do next, right? So that's going to be the in-between of this and this, right? So I'm gonna like, you can choose like wherever here, because this isn't the final timing yet. We're still going to adjust that, right? So I'm gonna click this. I'm just gonna press F7 and adjust the onion skin. And then we're going to like do this pose here. And we're just gonna do a straight in between. So you just choose which one you would want to in between first. So for example, the like center line, right? So it's going to be here. So of course, as you like gain more skills, as you like animate like further, there's like other things to consider, right? Like perspective and things like that. But for now, let's just use this as a basis, okay? That we're just gonna do the half of this, and this is gonna be slightly wrong because again, like as we turn, we need to consider like the shape, the volume, the perspective. But for now, just for simplicity, we're gonna make this half. So this is going to be like the center line, and then we're gonna find the half of this, right? The eye, right? So it would be somewhere here. And remember, this one's closed. So I'm going to like draw like the full eye first. So it's gonna be something like this, and then it's going to. I'm also just going to do a half of the opening eyes. So this is going to be like a half closed or half opened eye. It's going to be something like that, and the iris is going to be somewhere here. And this one, we're also going to do like the half of that, so around here. But of course, see, as I look at the drawing, it feels like the like width of this is like too big. So I think we need to bring this a bit closer. And the nose, it's gonna be somewhere here. And let's draw in like the face. And the ear. So we need to like just do a straight in between of the ear. And now like the hair, this like that part, right? So we need to so I'm going like back and forth so that I could like see. So this is the one before, this one's the after. So the position of that, maybe it's gonna be here now. Also this one, just straight in between. This one here. And now let's do the cylinder next, just straight in between. And the ponytail. So for example, this one, right? It's easy enough to find like the middle, and this one too. Again, the hair, we're going to do this again. We're gonna recreate, or gonna like animate this again with the drag, but for now, we're just like getting like the position of this. So this one is just a straight in between. So the shadow would be like somewhere here. And let's have a look. I'm just gonna like color this in, and also this one. Let's have a look, and let's like add a shadow here too on this like breakdown. Let's have a look again. So this one is here. We're gonna animate on 2s, right? So that's why I skip a frame. It's gonna look like that. And now let's update our easing plan. So we have finished this. Now we're gonna do this next, which is the in between of this and this, right? So just to like illustrate, this frame is this one, this frame is this one, and this, and this one here, right? So we're gonna do this next. So I'm just gonna like select this, press F7, and we're gonna do the in between of this and this one. So we have to adjust our onion skin that it would only show these two. Okay, so now I'm gonna lock this again, and then still the same process. So the center line, so the like the hair, so now it's gonna be somewhere here, and it's gonna be something like that. So here, look at this, right? So we're gonna make an in-between, so it's just at the center. And also this, right? We're just going to create an in-between. So the eye line is going to be somewhere here, and it's gonna be like this. And this one, the hair, try to figure out like the in-between of that. And also this, what's the half of that? Because we are like using like the halves method, right? Now the eye. I'm just going to skip. I'm not anymore like going to the eye, right? So this is like our like the frame before, and this one is the frame after, like a half. That, right? So what's the half of this and this one? So maybe it's gonna be somewhere like a bit like that. So it's going to be somewhere here. And this one, let's create the in-between. Again, we need to, the closing of the eye, the eyelid, is we also need to create the half, or figure out where the half is. So the brow, everything, we are like doing the half. So this is why it's important to simplify the shape, because if this was like a complex shape, imagine if we just like animated like the detailed one, it's really like hard to figure out like the shape of it or the in-between of it. So it's also important when you do the in-between to just draw within range, right? Again, this isn't a hard rule, but this is like a good starting point. Like for example, this one, that's your range because you're doing the in-between, right? So don't do something like this, right? So if it's a breakdown, I guess you could like go out of this range, but if it's an in-between, right? So we have like set first the Keyposes, and then like the breakdowns, and then the in-betweens. So once you're doing the in-betweens, do not go out of range, right? Unless if you know what you're doing, right? So, but if you're starting out, just draw within the range. So this one's already done. So let's update our easing plan. Swap the color. So we have finished this one. 2 more on this side, right? So let's have a look for now. It's starting to look good. So also this hair, we're going to like redo this because it's going to like flow in a different way. But for now, let's just keep it as that. So now let's do this. Let's create this frame. So that's going to be in between of this frame and this frame, right? So now this one, I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna press F7. This one is this, all right? So now let's do the in between of that. So animation can be really like intimidating, especially when doing the in-between. But my tip is just to focus on one element at a time. So as you can see, like I'm thinking about like the in-between of the eye, in between of the eye. So I'm just focusing on that, and then just keep in mind that you could always adjust this later. This isn't like final yet. This is still just a sketch. So I think the problem is if you think this is like the final one and you feel like you can't commit any mistakes, then that's your downfall when you're animating frame by frame, because you're going to like stiffen up. So you need to like draw more loosely. And for example, the hair, I know this is still wrong, but I'm like just drawing it like anyway, because we're just gonna adjust that later. So I just need to lock in like the position of everything before like adding drag, because I'm able to grasp the concept much better if like animating that way. So we already have finished this frame, so let's update our easing plan. We have finished this, so let's have a look. And for this one, I'm just gonna like fill this one in, press K, and then click that, press B again. Let's have a look again. So okay, for the final in between, again, we could like always like add in, and the more like we add in like to the frames here, the more we like add in betweens like on this side, the smoother it will be. But for now, let's just like I think this is gonna be our last in between on this side. So I'm gonna press F7 now. And again, remember, we should favor on the frame before. We're gonna favor here, right? So this frame is this one, and this frame here is this frame. So this one, that's what we're gonna do here, but it's favored on this side. So it's favored on this side, okay? So it's favored on this, right? It's favored on like the blue onion skin. So it's so instead of creating it at the center, it's gonna be favored a little bit here. So I'm just gonna press F4. So now we have finished this in between. So let's update our plan. We have finished this one. We have finished this side. So this side is the only one remaining. Now let's like have a look. It's much smoother now. If you want, you could continue adding on this side. So if you want, like for example, this, I could like press F7 and create the in-between of this one and this one. Once you're done with that, we could again add a frame here, press F7, and that would create the in-between of this and this, and you could go on and on with this. But for now, I think I'm like good with this. I think it's already like smooth enough. But if you want to like add like slow or like emphasize like the slow out of this or ease out of this, then you could continue adding that way. But for now, let's do the other side. So I'm just gonna select like both of these and then just press F5. So like again, I don't know like how many frames that is. I'm lazy to count. But anyway, for the rough, I'm gonna do this one next, this one, which is the in-between of this and this. So that would be the in-between of this and this one. So here, I'm gonna press F7, okay, and we're gonna do this frame. Now, let me just lock the guide, and then now let's begin the in-between. And I'm gonna adjust the onion skin, and we're gonna find or draw in the half. So we have finished this one. So let's update our plan. We've finished this. Let's have a look. So now let's do this next, this one, and I'm gonna press F7 here. So now let's do the in-between of this and this. So that would be that and this one, right? So this here is this one. So let's do the in-between. So we have finished this frame. So we have finished this one now, and let's have a look. So I'm just gonna fill in like the shadow here. And then we're gonna do this one, this, which is the in-between of this and this. So we just need to do 2 more frames. So we have finished this one now. We have finished this frame. Let's have a look. And just one more frame, which is this, which is the in-between of this one and this one. So I'm gonna press F7 here. But we are animating on 2s, right? And this one is it's on 1s. So I'm just gonna like select all of these, including the one below. And I'm gonna hold click and drag. And by doing the hold click and drag, the tie down has created like an unnecessary frame. So I'm just gonna like drag, hold click and drag this here so that it's back to the way it was before. And then now let's do the in-between of this. And again, this one isn't really like exactly half, but it favors on this side. So now it favors on the green part. So instead of I'm just gonna lock this. So instead of like making it like exactly half, I'm gonna favor it on the green one. So I'm gonna do that for everything. So I'm gonna it's not exactly half, but I'm going to like favor it on the green onion skin. Now we have finished this frame here. So we have now completed our plan, and let's see if we want to add more or if this is already good. Let's hide the guide. Let's hide the tie down for now. Let's just focus our attention on like the animation itself. Yeah, I think this is already good. I would like maybe wanted to add like an in-bit. So let's bring out like the guide again. I think we could like add in, because this one here is a bit fast. This area here is a bit fast. So I think if we are adding like in-betweens here, it's gonna make it more smooth. So we still have like accelerating, and here it's like maintaining speed, and then here it decelerates. So without this, it feels like it's too fast. Or it's already okay, but I think I guess it now boils down to personal preference if we're like gonna add like frames. So how about we try? And if it doesn't work out, let's just delete it. Okay, so we need to find these frames and add an in-between of that, which is just half, right? So this one is like the front view, right? So this is it. So we're gonna add like an in-between here. So this one is the in-between of this. So I'm gonna press both of these and then press F5 twice, giving us space to add in between. So I'm gonna press F7 here, and we're also going to add, or I think that was wrong. It's supposed to be here, right? So this one, I'm gonna select both of these, top and bottom, and then press F5 twice, giving us space to add the in-between. And also this one, press F5 twice, and then we have a space for the in-between. So we could add in the in-between here. So let's do that. So let me adjust the plan. Anyway, if it doesn't work, let's just delete it, you know? So let's do that. So we already have finished this, and let's do this one, just this. So now it's done. Let's have a look. So I guess that depends on you, which one you want. I guess it again boils down to personal preference, whether you would like a quicker head turn or a slower one. So I'm just gonna I can't visualize the closing of the eyes, so I'm gonna color in the iris. I'm just gonna feel that so that I could see. So let's have a look. So I'm just gonna duplicate this, right click, and then duplicate layers. And I'm gonna hide this one below, and then I'm gonna revert this back to its original. So I'm gonna delete these two frames that we added. So I'm gonna select this, then Shift F5, and for the other side, this one too, we're gonna delete these frames, Shift F5. So now this is the original one. I think I'm gonna stick with the original one. I think I find the added frames too slow. So this one's the original one that we had. And then this is the one with added frames. So I think it's much slower. I think too slow. So yeah, so this is now the head turn for the rough animation. And if you want to make it quicker, you just delete a few frames. So we could even do that, right? So let's delete now let's hide the guide, and let me just right click and then duplicate layers again. So I'm just gonna rename this as rough, slow, and rough. This one's the original, so rough, original. And then I'm gonna rename this as rough, fast. And for this, we have to delete more frames. So I'm just gonna adjust the plan, right? I'm gonna delete this added frames here. So if you want to make it faster, it's either you so you need to be strategic also where you're going to delete this, right? So do you delete this one? That could be a possibility. So you still start with slow, and then it's gonna abruptly go fast, because this one is deleted. So imagine if that's going to be deleted, what's going to be the spacing for the rest, right? So, or you could delete this and we'll have a very big spacing, so that's going to be very, very quick, right? So we could always just duplicate again, right? And try things out, so let's try first deleting this one and this. So that's gonna be the third and the last third, right? So that's going to be 1, 2, 3. We're gonna delete this one, And the last third, 1, 2, 3, we're gonna delete that, and let's have a look at the animation. And I'm just gonna expose this one up to here. So I'm just gonna click that one, and then I press F5. So that's what it looks like if the original is something like this. So I don't think if you notice, it's very subtle, right? So, or let's duplicate this again, and let's rename this as rough fast 2. And what we're gonna delete here is this one. So that's going to make the frame like very fast. So we're gonna delete this, right? This the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna delete this. And that's gonna be the fifth also from this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna delete that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's delete this. And let's have a look. See, you're going to have that abrupt look. So same number of frames from the rough fast here, but the effect is different because the spacing is different, the timing is the same, right? But the frame that we deleted was different, right? So I'm thinking, what's my favorite here? I could like experiment like more, but I think I'd go with the original. So I'm gonna go with this one. But it's good to just, experiment. I think this one's like very good already. It's smooth and I like it. So next we are going to do the hair. So first, let me just clean up like the file. I'm just gonna delete like this exploration that we did because I'm going with the rough like original now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like create a new layer. I'm gonna lock this, right? And turn on like the outline mode like that. And I'm just gonna press B on my keyboard, and the stroke is already like good. So this is our first frame, right? So I'm just gonna do this one first, and then I'm going to come back later for this and this one. So I'm just gonna hide like our easing plan because we're not gonna use the easing plan here. And I'm just gonna change this to blue because our rough original is red, right? If I'm gonna turn off the outline mode, it's gonna be red. So I'm gonna turn on like the outline mode first. So I'm just gonna trace this. And I'm gonna do this in a straight ahead method. So I'm gonna move forward in time and click this one, then press F7, right? And I'm gonna turn on like the onion skin, right? And that's like on a different layer, right? So this is, I'm just gonna rename this as hair rough, something like that. And what's good about this is that I know that the position of the hair is like this, right? If we don't follow like any drag, but I could also see like the frame before. So I'm just gonna like bring this here, adjust it that the hair is starting here, but the tip would still like delay, right? So it's gonna be here, but the tip is delay on like the previous frame. So I'm gonna press F4 again, and then I'm gonna move a like frame, then press F7 here, and I'm gonna press F4. So now you could see that this is where our previous like hair, right? So I'm going to like, it's like going to go down, but there's gonna be some sort of like delay. And this one, it's gonna be, it's like going to be bent now, like, or like curved. There's gonna be delay somewhere here. Skip a frame and then press F7. So now this one, it's going to, I think it's gonna be, or something like that now. and this one here. So it's like going to move, but a bit delayed. And let's move a frame, then press F7. And this one, it's going to be something like this now. Skip a frame, then press F7. So when I'm like doing this, like I want it to be delayed here, but I'm also like considering like the length, right? So what I'm trying to avoid is I'm trying to avoid like this strand to be to lengthen and to shorten. So I'd like to keep like the length of this consistent. So with that point, like for example, the tip is here. I'm not gonna make it like this because that would make it it would lengthen, right? So knowing that this is like my hair strand, so I'm just like going to favor it around here because it's going to be delayed, but I'd like to keep like the length a bit consistent. So now what I want for the hair is the head turn already stopped at this point, so let's just preview for now. So it would look like that, right? um, And what I want for this is that when the head would stop, the hair would like dangle a bit. There's going to be like a back and forth like movement, but only just a subtle amount, not too much. So for here, I will like overshoot this a little bit. So it's going to overshoot. And this one, because this one's like the previous frame, so it's going to overshoot a bit. And then even if like the head already stopped at this point, the hair is like going to continue. So it's going to like move forward a bit, overshoot a little bit before it goes back. And then it's like going to go back now. And I think this is going to be our last frame, only on like this part. So let's have a look. It's gonna look like that. I think I don't like this frame, this one, because it feels like it has like thicken up like the hair. So I'm just gonna like delete that part and I'm gonna redo that. I think I don't like this one too. And let's have a look. Yeah, I think this one's better. And this part here, it feels like I'm feeling like it has lengthened. So I'm gonna like delete this and adjust. I think I'm gonna make it something like this now. Let's have a look. Yeah, I think that's better. And I think the like overshoot is too much. So I'm thinking of like removing this. So I have selected this frame, then Shift F5. I think that's better. So let me expose like the hair rough to until here so that it's sync up with like the animation below. Yeah, I think that's better. Just a subtle overshoot. And now let's do the same for the ponytail. But I think the ponytail is already like working, but let's try to add a little bit of drag to this and we'll see. So I need to redraw this and just copy it exactly so that it would show up on my onion skin. Remember, we have like locked the frame before. So I'm just gonna do this first and come back again on this one because I just want to focus on like one part at a time. So I have two like bases here. I'm like trying to look at like the original shape and then the onion skin, right? So now I'm gonna move forward. So what I did is we already have like the frame for this hair. So I'm just like going back again on this layer and then adding the other part of the hair. But you could also like have this on a different layer if you want. But I don't think a different layer is like necessary for this. So now I think we could add in the drag. So the hair is going to be here, but I think we can like have that move back a bit, have that drag. So instead of the base of the hair to be around here, I'm gonna bring it back a bit, something like this. Let's move forward. And this one, I'm thinking if I'm adding too much drag, let's move forward. And this one too, I'm gonna like add, so the hair should be like here, but I'm gonna like add like drag to this. Then it will now like try and ease into the frame. Let's have a look. I think it's almost like the same. Just like a bit of like subtle movements, but yeah, I think it's good. And let's do this one. Because the movement isn't really that fast, so it's just like a subtle amount of drag that we're adding. So I'm gonna go back again and do the other side. So what I'm like adding the drag here now is like on like the base, right? So currently it's here, so I like pushed back a bit, so it's like adding also, because we push this back a bit, I'm adding like volume like here. So instead of here, I'm gonna push it back here. I think this drag would be more noticeable than the other side. So I'm going to adjust like the drawing a bit. I'm not anymore like going to follow this exact like design, because if I do, it's gonna be like too abrupt, right? So I'm still using this as a guide, but I'm like prioritizing like the drawing of like how it came up to be. Like, so I'm like doing this straight ahead. So like what is like the previous shape, that's what I'm like prioritizing, but still like I'm using like this one, the one below, the layer below, as like a guide, right? So this is now like the output, right? So let's have a look with the outline mode turned off. So it's gonna look like that. And let me just like lock this, and I'm just still going to keep the original. So I'm gonna right click this one and then duplicate layers. So this is my copy. So I'm just gonna bring that down, I'm gonna hide that. And then for this one, I'm just gonna hide the hair rough, or let's just show that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to like delete or erase like the hair for this, so that we could see like the animation. So let me do that like quick. So I'm just gonna like turn the outline mode for this. Let's have a look. So I'm going to turn off the outline mode for the hair rough. So it's going to look like that. So I think this one's like a bit too much of the drag. So I'm going to bring this back up again. So it's always good to keep like the original copy. So I'm just going to like unlock, like I'm going to lock the original and the copy. And I'm just going to like lasso this and just adjust. I mean, I do like the like subtle drag of like the ponytail, but I think this one's like a bit much, and I think this one too. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's hide the copy and let's have a look. Yeah, I think that's better. So I'm checking like the acceleration and deceleration of this, that the spacing is like gradually like decreasing. So this one, I think that it's a bit too abrupt. So I'm gonna like bring this closer. And this one too, I'm gonna bring this closer to the previous frame. Let's have a look again. Yeah, I think this one's already good. So now we are going to do the tie downs. So we already did the tie downs like at the very beginning, right? So this one, so I'm gonna change this now to black. So I'm just gonna bring this like on top, and I'm just gonna delete this copy. Okay, because we're already done with this, I'm gonna delete that. So we have like the guide image. We don't need that because we already like draw in the tie downs. I'm gonna bring this tie down on top there, and I'm gonna change like the color of this to black. Okay, so now you could see, and then on the end, this one, I'm also gonna change this to black. And for the rough, I'm gonna like change the opacity. So I'm gonna right click, properties, and change the opacity to 50%. So um, something like that. And also the hair, I'm gonna just bring this down. I'm gonna bring this down here, and also the hair, we're gonna right click and then properties, and then change the opacity to 50%. So we have created this too, and I'm gonna just lock the rough because we're not gonna do the rough. So we're going to, actually this is considered as a cleanup, right? The tie downs is almost like a cleanup, but it could still be rough, right? So um, we can make this into a cleanup, but I'd rather not want to restrict myself to draw like the perfect image, because take a look at here. Remember, we have simplified this into just one cylinder, so we need to convert this into the final one, okay, with like the added like details. And for the ears, we're also going to add like the details now. So converting this into this can be like, you know, quite overwhelming. So if I'm gonna like start the, if I'm gonna skip the tie downs and go directly to clean up, and I'll find myself that it's like very difficult. So sometimes when I do the tie downs and it's already clean enough, I'm not anymore gonna create a cleanup, right? But I don't like restrict myself that this is going to be like the final drawing, right? So that's what we're gonna do. And the way I do the tie downs is I'm still gonna do it pose to pose. So I'm gonna like find the middle of this frame and this frame, and that's gonna be this one, right? So I'm gonna adjust this, bring it here, right? So this is the tie downs that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna drag the onion skin here so that we could see like the onion skin. So I'm gonna press F4. So we are now going to like add in, so it might be confusing, right? But think about it this way, that your priority is like the onion skin, and this one, the rough, that's your guide on like the position. I mean the location where the hair is located, where the rest of the body parts are located, but your priority is the onion skin. Okay, so now I don't need to draw this in, right? So that's just the guide. So I'm just gonna do like the eyelashes, and then I'm gonna do the nose, the mouth, the brow. So if the onion skin is like a bit confusing, you could always like turn that off. So I'm gonna like do this first because I'm like trying to like like procrastinate on like the goggles, because that's like the more difficult. But let's do that now. Okay, so we need to convert like this simple image into something like this, right? So let's do like the this part of the lens, and it has that like a bit of like or I think I made that too small. And then this, the like the volume, and then something like this, right? And it feels like there's like two cylinders, right? So this is like the first cylinder, and then we need to have like the second cylinder, and also like the base. So that's already good. Now let's do this one next. So the lens, the volume, right, or the thickness of the lens, and then we're gonna add in like the volume, and then the cylinder. This is now going to close in. I think I made it too small, so let me just select this and then press Q, and I'm just gonna adjust this, make this a bit bigger, and let's continue. And then the second cylinder, and then we need to connect this. So I can't anymore like follow this one, or I think I can, but when you do like the tie downs, right? Feel free to adjust, right? And we have like 1, 2, 3, and this one too would have like a volume. So it's not just flat; it has this layer, and it has like a pattern, like something like this, or a design, the end, something like that. So we need to add that into. So again, this one would like also have like a volume. It's not flat like that. It's a volume like this. So this one now feels a bit like confusing. So I'm going to hide the onion skin and just like draw in the hair. Just to be sure, I'm going to turn on the onion skin again. Again, the red one, this one is like the rough, right? And this like blue and green, that's our onion skin. So the priority is the onion skin, not the rough, right? So for like I'm going to like do this cleanup. This is half, right? So I'm gonna make some corrections. So this is now like the in between. So let's hide. So it now looks like that. Let's hide the onion skin, right? So it looks like that. So I'm gonna add in like the shadow, and then let's decide whether we want to go this way or we want to go this way. So I'm gonna do this way first, going backwards. So this one next, I'm gonna press F7 and then turn on like the onion skin, and then I'm gonna turn on like the rough and also the rough for the hair. Now I'm going to try and add in like the detail of the ear. There's like some ear piercing right here, so I'm gonna add that in. So let's do the goggles now. So remember, it feels like there's like two cylinders, so I'm gonna do the first cylinder. The rough is now making things confusing, so I'm gonna hide that so that I could focus on this part of like the hair, this part. But the ponytail, I'm gonna use the rough as my guide just for this. And let's turn on like the rough. So I think I could already like do this without the rough. So here, look, I did not follow the rough because I saw that it's not really like in the middle of like the in between. So I like did some corrections there. I think this is already good. Let's hide the rough, let's hide the onion skin, and it looks like that. Just going to like clean so it's not like super clean, and that's like okay. So later on we can decide if we want to like do another round and like make this like super cleaned up, or we could just use this one as our final animation. But you could see, right, my focus now is not really to create like a very like clean line art, but just to make this with added details, and it's now like more on model with like the final output, right? But as you can see, it's not like super cleaned up. So let us continue, and I'm gonna add in like the shadow. We forgot to add that in. Now I'm gonna do this next. I'm gonna press F7. Then I'm gonna turn on the onion skin. Now it's super confusing, so I'm just gonna adjust the onion skin that it would only show um, the previous frame and after, not like this. And wait, I think the opacity of the onion skin is too much. I'm just going to hold click and click advanced settings, and I think the starting opacity, let's lessen this up, something like that. We could always just adjust this later. So next we're going to do this one. Click this frame, press F7, and turn on the onion skin. So this one, I think the onion skin is now a bit too tight, that I think we could do the in-betweens even without like the rough guide. So I'm gonna like hide that, and I'm just gonna adjust the onion skin to adjust like the starting opacity, because now the rough is like distracting, and this is what we need like to do to create the in between. Now the last frame on this side. So let's click this frame, press F7, and now let's do the tie downs of this. So I'm just going to adjust the no, so I think I'm gonna do the goggles first, or the lens. So I'm gonna hide the rough and just focus on in betweening this one now. So we have finished like one side, so let's have a look. I'm just gonna press enter. So it looks like that. And let's do the other side. So it's gonna be like this, right? So do this, because we are using the halves method. So the order of the one that we did with the in-betweens, that's also the order of like how I'm doing it with the tie down. So we have this and this first, and then the one in the middle, and then we choose either this side or this side. So then this, which is the half of this and this, right? Now we're gonna do the other side. So this one, which is the half of this and this, but you know, we don't really need to think too much about the in-betweens because we already have this, right? So it's just like counter checking. The onion skin is just like counter checking or making some like final corrections if ever like we see some mistakes. this one's done. Let's proceed to the next. So click this frame, press F7. So this one's done. Let's proceed to the next. Press F7. Let's do the tie down of this. So we now have finished this frame. And I'm just gonna like modify like this tie down, because this is what we did before, which is just an tracing the design, right? But if we're gonna look at our rough, remember that the hair has changed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to erase this one. I'm gonna erase like the part of the hair, this one. I'm just gonna cut that out. So lasso and backspace, and also this part here. And this part of like the hair, I'm gonna like cut that out, and also this part here. And I'm just going to clean out this part. And what I'm gonna do is remember that the head already like stopped moving, and we still have like continue on moving with like the hair, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press this and press F6, which is a duplicate of this one. So it's like I'm copying this one now, so that when we add in the hair, we just need to draw like the hair and not to repeat cleaning up like the head. So I just like, instead of like creating a new layer for the hair, it's just like one layer with the tie down layer, and I just like pressed F6 on this so that we could like create a different hair, right? So now let's go back to this one now. So I'm going to press F7 and let's adjust the onion skin, and we're almost to the like end. And now let's create the tie down of this. So now we have finished this tie down. Let's have a look at the animation. So this one is for the added like the hair. So let's do that next. Let's turn on the rough and let's finish this. So we're now done with the tie down. So I'm gonna bring it here, and then I'm gonna press enter. So I've like spotted an error here. So I'm just gonna like adjust this, right? Because I think there's like an error. So I'm just gonna, it's not like a proper in between. So let's do that again. Yeah, I think this one's better now. So supposedly the next step would be clean up. So this is still a tie down, but if we're gonna like zoom in, see it's not like super cleaned up, and that goes for like all of the frames. It's not really like super cleaned up. And if you have seen like our other videos, then you'll know that the way I'll do cleanup is I'm gonna create a new layer, and then I'm gonna like turn this into outline mode and do this again, but do it like much cleaner. But there are also other ways to do the cleanup. You don't really need like to create like a new layer and redraw this again, but you could just like maybe use the eraser tool and just, you know, erase this one and just make it cleaner. But I find that the eraser tool isn't really like that cleaned up too. I really like the result of drawing it again, but again, you know, that depends on you. But for this video, I'm not anymore gonna do the cleanup, because I think if like we're like zooming out a bit, it looks clean enough, right? So, but if this is like a client project, I'm gonna like do another pass that is like much cleaner, but that's gonna be that would make the video very, very long. So I'm just gonna like stick with this one, and we're gonna skip the cleanup, and we're gonna proceed with the color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click and then duplicate this one, and then I'm gonna rename this as line art. So I always keep a copy or a backup. So this one just contains the line art. So I'm gonna hide that now, and this one would be our color. So let me like clean up like the file a bit. This is going to be our color. So I'm just gonna rename this into color. And we have now the guide or the image, the one that we imported. So I'm gonna right click this, click properties, and then I'm gonna change this from opacity 50% to visible, right? So now we have like the full color, and I'm just gonna bring it like here. And we are going to, I think the base color of this is this one. And we have this like highlights over here. So or I think if you look at the file of this is like the base color. So this is the base color, and it's like we have like a different layer that's in like multiply, and we're gonna do that in After Effects later. Let me check the file of this. So this is the Photoshop file, and I'm just gonna like so the way like Mag designed this is there's like a layer on top, and like it's this color. So it's, if I'm gonna set this to normal, we have this white here, and this like pink color, and if we set that to multiply, it's gonna look like that. But the base color, this is like the base color, and we have like highlights on the side. So what we want when we do the color is find like the base color, because we're gonna do like the lighting later. So we're gonna like do the base color. So we're gonna use this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a screenshot of this, and I'm just gonna hide this image, and I'm going to like create a new layer, and then I'm going to drag the screenshot here. And we need to close also our drawing. So I'm gonna click this color right here, and we need to close this one at the bottom. So I'm just gonna press B on my keyboard, and we need to close this one, because if it's not closed, we can't color it. So I'm gonna do that for all of the frames. And also I'm going to close the eyes, this one, so that we could color this with white. But instead of using a brush or a classic brush tool, I'm gonna press Y. That's gonna be the paintbrush tool, I think. So the shortcut is Y on our keyboard, but if we click this one, it's this. So yeah, I'm correct. The name is paintbrush tool, and the shortcut is Y. And this one is a stroke, and I'm just gonna make this a bit bigger because currently the size is 1. So I could set this maybe to 4. So it's not going to blend with like my brush. So I could like delete this one. But the good thing about this is I could fill this with color and just remove the stroke later. So I needed this so that we could fill this with color so that it's not open. At the same time, I could remove it anytime I want. And the eraser, so if we're gonna click the eraser, we could actually set this to only erase lines. So if I'm gonna click this one, it's only going to erase lines. So that's gonna be good, because let's like close it now, and once the color is in, we're just gonna erase the lines later. So I'm just gonna close like the eyes now. So for this one, so that I would always, I don't want to redraw the line again because it may not be it may be like inconsistent. So I'm just like gonna double click this, and Shift double click this. So I've selected both of them. I'm gonna copy. That's Command C if you're working on a Mac. That's Control C if you're working on Windows. And on here, I'm gonna click Command Shift V because I'm working on a Mac. That's Control Shift B if you're working on a Windows. That's shortcut for paste in place. So now I have finished like that, closing the lines. Now let's do the color. So I'm gonna the way I do the color is I have usually the final design or color right here, and I'm just gonna press I. That's shortcut for the eyedropper tool. So I'm gonna click this one, and then press K for fill. And I usually just go like one part at a time since I already like have this color. So I'm gonna color in all of like the parts that have that color. So the ear and this part here. So I'm gonna color all of that first. So this one has a like a hole, so we can like use the Y, right? The paintbrush tool and close that. Press K on my keyboard and then color. So here, we left this out, so I'm just gonna close this so that the color is only here because this one's like part of the hair. So we have finished that. Now let's go back again and choose a different color. So I'm gonna do the hair next. So what other color? So this is the brown is only for the hair. So we're now done with the hair. What would we do next? We're gonna do the, I think this color a darker. It's a darker brown. Next, I'm gonna do the dress. So this color. And then I'm gonna so the goggles, this like earrings and this one I think has the same color. So let's do that next. So you can just hold, click, and drag. So if I'm gonna like click this one, so that I have hold that and now drag, that's going to color in like the other like parts. So if it's close, it will like color. So careful that you don't color the stroke, right? So we want to color like the space in between, not the stroke. So next we are going to do this part of the goggles. So I'm not sure if this one's like the same color. I think they're different. So I'm gonna do this one first. Okay, next I'm gonna do this color. So we have missed this one. So next is the eyes, and this one I think is white. And the background of our canvas is white, so I'm just gonna create a new layer and like add this color, and I'm gonna use this rectangle tool so that I could see if I already have colored in the white. So I'm just gonna like rename this into a background BG. Now let's go back to the color layer, and I'm just gonna make sure that this is white. So I'm just gonna press I on my keyboard. So I think no, it's not. This isn't exactly white, I think. So now we're done with like the base color. Let's preview this. So it looks like that now. And let's remove like this line, right? We can do it like one by one. Go here and set the eraser that it will only erase lines, and we could like um, go with this frame by frame, or we could click this one. This is the edit multiple frames. So it's like an onion skin, but it would allow you to select multiple frames. So I'm going to like drag this all the way to the start, and I'm going to lock the other layer so that I would not be able to click on it. Now, if I'm gonna press V on my keyboard, I could now select all of this. And now I could select, because this is the stroke color, I could click this one now and set it to empty. So that's going to remove all of the outline of the selected drawings. So now I'm gonna like unselect this one and bring it back to onion skin, and adjust the onion skin again to normal range. And now it looks like that. Now let's preview. So let me just lock this and let's preview. Now we will do the shading of this. And it's good that we kept the line art back up, because we're going to need this. So I'm going to right click this and duplicate. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to rename this as my shading. So I'm just going to bring this below the line art, and let's I'm going to like hide that, and let's analyze first this guided image. I mean, this is um, our guide, this image. And let's hide the background for now, and let's analyze like the shading of this. So when we do like shading it, the basics would be is that you have a base color, and then you have like the shadow, or the one in shadow, and you have highlights. So the highlights in this case, the color is white here. It's like overexposed, this part here. So I'm just going to mark this. So that's the highlights. So this one, that's the highlights, and I'm just gonna choose a different color. The base color here is this one's the base color, and also this part in the ear. So that's the base color, and everything else that I didn't draw is in shadow. So I'm just gonna make this maybe dark green. So this one here, that's in shadow. And the way the design or the character was made, so I'm just gonna go back again to Photoshop, is that we have this layer with this color set to multiply to achieve this kind of color. But if we remove that, that's the base color, right? And this one's the highlight. So let's go back again to Animate. And how do we achieve this shading? Is we're gonna apply what we did in the color for the eyes. We used like the paintbrush tool. So what we're gonna do is let me just hide this one, or let me just like bring this to the side. Let me make this a bit smaller. We don't need this the base color anymore, because we already like created the one with colors. So I'm just gonna hide that, and this is what we need as a guide. And let's reveal the shading. So currently the shading is just an outline, right? But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna press like Y, and that's the shortcut for the paintbrush tool, right? And um, wait, I'm just going to like expose like the this image to stay on screen until here. So I'm gonna expose that. Click this and press F5. And for this one, right? So I'm going to so we have like two. We need to create like two shapes of this. One for the highlight and one for like the base color. So the base color, it's gonna look something like this. So we actually need like two layers. right? So that's the base color, and also for the this one, right? So I'm just gonna explain how we're gonna do the base color. So once we have like added in, so we're gonna like do that for like the rest of the frames. We're gonna animate that, and once we're done with like the lines, we're just gonna press K on our keyboard, and then let's color this. Any color will do because we're gonna do the like final coloring in After Effects, right? We just need to fill that in. So once we're done, we're gonna select all of the frames and remove the outline, right? Same process. So let's do this first. Let me undo this, and I'm just gonna right click this again and duplicate layers. And I'm just gonna like prepare the files ahead of time. So this one is for my highlights, and this one's for the like base shading. And I'm gonna hide the highlights for now, and I'm going to focus on like the base colors. If we look at here, this one's like the base color, and also this one. And the rest, this one, the one in white, that's highlights, right? So I'm gonna do like the base color first. And the light source is coming on like the right side, so we need to keep that in mind. So the way we do shading is we're like going to animate it in the same way that we animated the in between. So I'm gonna start with like the first and last frame, but in this case, our guide is the last frame. So I'm gonna start with the last frame, and then the first frame, and then the one in the middle, and then we're gonna choose either we do this side or do this side. Okay, so we are like going to animate the shading. So now let's do that. Okay, so I've pressed Y, and then our color is red. That's fine, any color would do because we'll just delete it anyway. So I'm just gonna copy this. So if it goes over the drawing, that's again also okay, because anyway we're gonna delete. I mean, this one, that's okay because we're gonna delete that later. So this is already done. Let's go to the first frame and let's turn on our onion skin. So this is like creating a problem for us. So because when we go on this frame, the onion skin is, we could like see everything. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna create a new layer, and this is gonna act as our temporary file. And we're just like going to like bring it like down. So I'm just gonna like bring this up, and also bring this up, this one, so that we only have. So I'm gonna lock this now. This way, we only have like two drawings. I'm gonna hide this one too. We only have like two drawings, so it's like easy to see like the in betweens, right? So I mean the onion skin. So I'm gonna press Y again, and the light source is coming on this side, so this part would light up. So maybe something like that, and this part of the ear, right? So once that is done, right? Let's find. So I'm gonna hide this again and reveal this one, and let's find the center. So this one. So I'm gonna drag this, bring it on top, right? So now let's hide this and go on this frame. So now we could see the shading that we did, right? So it's gonna be some, because the light source is coming from here, and so I'm going to check where is that in like my next frame. So it's now going to be somewhere, something like that, and also this part here would capture some light. And then we're gonna do this one next. So I'm just gonna drag this up. So we're like adding in like the frames like one by one. So now let's adjust like the onion skin, that it will only like show these two frames. So now you could always like go back and forth to see. So this is what you need to notice, right? So what's the half of that? Around here. And for the like ear, so something like that. And then this one, I'm gonna drag it up again. And what's the half of this? And I'm just like going back and forth. Okay, the half of that, the shade. So we're like creating the in between for the shading too. And this one, let's drag, hold click and drag it up. And now let's do the other side. So I'm gonna start here, bring this up, and then adjust the onion skin. So I'm going to like draw like the in between of this, and the ear. This one would capture some light because this is our end frame, right? So now we're done with that. Let's drag this up and let's do the in between. So we're already like done with that. So have a look. And now let's fill this with color. Remember that we have kept, so it's important to note that we have kept a backup, that we have like a layer with just the line art only, and we have a layer with color, right? So, and this one that we did is line art with the shading. So this one's now empty, right? So I'm just going to delete this one. That's done its purpose. Now let's fill this with color. Just not black because the color of the stroke is black. So I'm just going to like create like any color. So maybe blue, this one. It doesn't matter. Again, we're gonna like finalize this in like After Effects. So when you do the color, so you could now like do it straight ahead. So you don't need the onion skin. And let me fill this with color. So now it's done. And let's remove the outline, right? So again, turn on the edit multiple frames. Then I'm gonna drag it here. And this may like feel like it's confusing, but you know, it's simple enough. Just select all of them and then click this like stroke color and change this to empty. So it sounds like that. And let's turn off the edit multiple frames. And let's turn on the onion skin, and I'm gonna bring this to a like a normal range, and let's have a look. So it looks like that. So that's good, right? So this one's already good. And now let's bring the highlights, because we're gonna do this one here. So it's this, we're gonna do that. So we're gonna start with this frame, this last frame, because that's our guide. I'm gonna press Y, and the stroke color is red. That's okay. And so I'm just gonna zoom out, draw like in this range so that I could see this one. So we have like a shape here, and this one up until the hair, right, like that. And we have like white on like the cheeks here, and starting from here. So the light source is coming from here. So this isn't closed, so I'm just gonna close that. And anything like outside the canvas won't be seen when we import it in After Effects. So this is like good. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the first frame. So same concept. I'm going to create a new layer and bring this one on top, something like that. And this one too, I'm gonna bring on top. And then I'm gonna lock this one. And now I'm gonna adjust the onion skin that you would see. So the light source is coming on this side. So the highlights, so I think this highlight would be consistent. So I think we could just copy paste this part here, because I don't think this one's like going to move. Like the white part here is going to be consistent. But like the highlight on this side, I think that's what's going to move. So I think we're gonna have a highlight here and a highlight on like this part of like the hair. On this part, I don't like want to like add a highlight because it's gonna like feel like it's gonna look shiny. Like on this side it's okay, but on this side it feels like her face is shiny. So I'm just like going to keep like the highlights on like the edge. So now let's go to the middle, this one. So I'm gonna hold click and drag this on top, and I'm just gonna hide this. And now let's like draw in like the highlight. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this one. I'm gonna double click. So now I have selected all the strokes. I'm gonna copy that, right? And I'm gonna click this one, and I'm just gonna press Command Shift V, or Control Shift V. And now I'm just gonna do the highlights like on this side. So this part of the hair, I think this part of the goggles, and this part here. The ear, we can do away with this, so we don't need to add highlights to that anymore. So let's do this side first. So I'm gonna hold click and drag this one. And now I'm gonna adjust the onion skin so that it would only show uh, these two frames. So remember, we have copied this stroke, so I'm just gonna paste in place. Okay, so paste in place that one. This one is gonna highlight here. We have a highlight here, and we have a highlight here. So for highlights, I think you could just like keep it a rule to keep it on the edge if you're like confused by like lighting. And this one, I'm gonna hold click and bring it up. Again, I'm gonna paste on place. And this one, hold click and drag. And then now we could actually just do the in-betweens of like the highlights. And hold click and drag this, and I'm gonna paste in place for this stroke. The concept of in-betweening is also applicable to highlights. So we can't like add a highlight here, right? And you know, this is the first highlight, and then it goes here and then goes back again. It doesn't it feels like wrong if you look at it. So still the concept of in-betweening would apply. So this one's already done. Let's do like the other side. So I'm gonna hold click and drag, put this up. Now let's do the highlights of this. So I'm gonna like adjust the onion skin so we could see like the last frame, so that I could see also the highlights. And bring this up and create the in-between. And I'm gonna paste in place. This one, bring this up, paste in place. And I think it did not reach this, but we need to close. So I'm just gonna hold click and drag. So I'm like checking the previous frames too. It needs to be closed so that we could like feel that. I'm gonna press Y again on my keyboard, and let's draw the in-between. And this one, bring this back, bring this up, paste in place, and I'm gonna adjust this one and create do the in-between, and bring this up again, paste in place, adjust this, close, and then let's draw the in-between of the highlights. And last frame, so bring that up and paste in place, and make sure the this one's closed, and let's draw the in-between of the highlights. Now it's done. Let's have a look. So that's how it looks like. And now let's fill this with color. So the one below, I mean the base shading is blue. Let's make this red. So this one's already, it has done its purpose. I'm just gonna delete that, right? And now I'm gonna remove the onion skin and change this. So I'm just gonna deselect everything and then change, make this red. I'm gonna press K. And then let's or maybe I'm just gonna change this to yellow, because our stroke is red, right? So that we could see if we have filled up like everything. So we have forgotten to add like the highlights on like this part like of the face. So we're going to add that in. So I'm gonna start here. So the problem is we already have this. So I'm just gonna like eyeball this. So it's probably here. And you could still use the onion skin, but we could like change the onion skin to just the previous frame. So now let's fill this with color. Let's turn off the onion skin. And let's turn on the edit multiple frames, and then drag this like that, select everything, and then click this one, and then click remove outline, and then deselect. Let's bring this to like a normal range. Let's turn off the edit multiple frames, and that looks like that. That's preview. So that's the highlight, and let's show like the base shading. And we have like also the line art and also the color. So now we are ready to we're ready to import this in After Effects. And the good thing with like playing around with After Effects, because we could easily like change the color, change the blending mode, and etc. And we could like try different moods. So now we are going to prepare the file so we could import it in After Effects. So I'm gonna show you like the file of this. So this is the file. If I'm going to press Command Enter or Control Enter if you're working on a Windows, that's Command Enter if you're working on a Mac, right? So if you're gonna like export the SWF, it's gonna be right beside your .fla. So I'm gonna open this. It's this now, and what will be like shown on After Effects is only what is shown on the canvas and not like the whole thing. So currently, if I'm gonna zoom out and let's reveal like the background, you see this like a red outline. That's not anymore going to be shown. If we import this in After Effects, this is like the only thing that's going to be shown, right? So what I'm going to do is I want to separate the different files. I want to separate the outline, the base color, and then the shading. So we have like, if we're gonna take a look here, the background, we don't need this. So I'm gonna right click and then turn this into a guide layer so that it's not gonna show up on our export. This one, I'm gonna turn this to guide layer, and this one, turn this to guide layer. So if I'm gonna like Command Enter or Control Enter, see the background is not anymore there. So this one, what's this? So I'm going to like turn to guide layer, the things that we don't need. So first, I'm just gonna export the line art. So this one and the color. So let me undo that. So I've selected these three, right click, and then turn them into a guide. So currently the only layer that's not a guide layer is the line art. So I'm gonna click Command Enter or Control Enter. So we have the line art. So if I'm gonna go to my file, this one now is like the line art. It only has like the line art here. So I'm going to rename this maybe head turn underscore line art only. And then I'm gonna turn this into a guide, and then turn the highlights. I'm gonna uncheck the guide so that if I'm gonna press Command Enter or Control Enter, it would only show the highlights. Okay, so this one, this file, this is the export. So I'm going to rename this now so that whenever we're gonna like export like a new like layer, that's not going to overwrite what we already have. So I'm gonna rename this to highlight only. Okay, and then I'm gonna right click and then click guide, and then for the base shading, right click and uncheck the guide, and then click Command Enter or Control Enter. So we only have like the base shading. So, and then I'm gonna rename this now as head turn underscore base shading only. So So now I have like 3 SWF. And then lastly, the colors. I'm gonna right click this one, change this into a guide layer. And then I'm gonna click the color layer, right click, and then uncheck the guide. And then I'm gonna export this now. That's Command Enter or Control Enter. So this is now the color. So let's go back again to our like file, and I'm going to rename this as head turn underscore color only. And I'm just gonna rename this so that they all have the same naming conventions. So I'm gonna turn this into an underscore. So now we have like separated all of like the layers, and now we're ready to open After Effects. So now I have opened Adobe After Effects, and what we're gonna do is I'm going to import this into our project. So I'm gonna select this and just drag it on our project panel right here. And I'm going to create like a new composition, and you could choose whatever you want. I'm just gonna use the standard 1920 by 1080, and that's 24 FPS because our animation is 24 FPS. So I'm gonna click OK. And first, I'm gonna just import the line art that's gonna be like on top, and then followed by the highlight, base shading, and then the color. So I think this is 12 minutes, so I'm just gonna like zoom in and maybe just stop here. I'm gonna press N on my keyboard so that if I'm gonna preview, it's just gonna loop like that. And then we need to create like a new layer, a new solid. And the color of our solid is, I'm gonna base that off on the design. So I'm going to open the design file. So this is now the design file, and I'm just gonna press I on my keyboard and just pick the color. And I'm gonna double click this one, and I'm just gonna copy the hex code. So I'm gonna copy that, and let's go back to After Effects, and I'm just gonna paste the hex code right here. Click OK, and then let's bring this at the bottom layer. And now let's set this up, right? So this is our line art, right? And this is our highlight, right? So I'm gonna change this. So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna change the color of this. I'm gonna use the fill effect. So on our effects and presets like panel, I'm gonna click this and then type fill, and I'm gonna apply fill to this layer. So currently it's red. Let's change this to white. Okay, and then for the base shading, right? What I want to do is I want this base shading to cut out the color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this. The shortcut for duplicate is Command D or Control D if you're working on a Windows, Command D if you're working on a Mac. So I have like duplicated this, and I'm going to add a fill effect on this one, and then choose the color that you want. For now, I'm gonna go back to the design, and I'm going to match the color of this. So this is the color, right? So I'm gonna change this to, I'm going to change this to normal, and then I'm gonna like eyedropper tool this one, and then I'm gonna copy this, and the blending mode used here is multiply. So I'm going to match that with my animation. So let's go back to our After Effects. So now I'm gonna like paste the color here to that color. So it's like that, and then I'm gonna toggle. I'm gonna click this one, the toggle switches mode, and I'm gonna change the mode to multiply. So it's gonna look like that now, right? It's similar to what we have, right? But let me just hide this one. So I'm gonna rename this to so let me close that. I'm gonna rename this. So I'm gonna click this layer, press enter, and then I'm gonna rename this to shadow. So this is the shadow. Okay, so if I'm gonna click the solo mode, you will see that that's our shadow. But what I want is I want to cut off the shadow with the base shading. I want this one to punch a hole on our shadow layer right here. So what we're gonna do is for the matte, right? I'm gonna like this is like the new version of After Effects. So you have now this track matte like option, and you could like uh, pick whip it to the base shading. So it's gonna look like that, right? But if we change this, if we change this one, this is the invert. If we click that, that's gonna invert the color now. So this punched a hole on those parts. So let's uncheck the solo mode. So now it's gonna look like that, right? So this is now like the we already have like the lighting added, right? But we're going to try different moods to this, right? So this is like the default, right? This is like the first option. Um, and before we go into like exploring the different moods, I'm just gonna add glow to this. So I'm gonna like click the layer, new, and then let's add an adjustment layer. And here we're gonna like add glow. So there are like two types of glow here, glow and VR glow. So I'm gonna like try the glow first. So it's gonna look like that. And we can like add or the glow radius, you could play around with this one, and the glow threshold. And also the glow intensity, maybe bring this down to 0.5. So this is before the glow, this is after with the glow effect enabled. And let me just collapse this, and let's turn this off, and let's try the VR glow. And the VR glow looks like that. So I'm gonna like turn this off, and it looks like that. This is without the glow, with the glow, and let's preview. And let's take a look at this. This is with glow, and this is without glow. Right, so on the VR glow, you could also like change like the tint color. I haven't really like explored like VR glow. What I use in projects is just the standard glow right here. But I just recently like discovered this. I don't know if this is like a new effect or this had been like in After Effects for a long time, but it's just recently that I decided to like try this out. And what I like about the VR glow is it doesn't affect like the background color, right? So in the glow, if we turn on the glow, the background color changes, but on the VR glow, it didn't. It just like added some like blur effect here. But I don't know like how to like adjust this or what's the effect. So if you're gonna like reduce the luma threshold, it's gonna increase like the intensity and the glow radius and the glow brightness and the saturation. Or if you want to use the tint color, it's gonna look like that, or you could like change a different color. So I'm gonna change this into like something warm. So I think I like this one better. Yeah, I think this has like more control. So I'm gonna reduce the brightness. I'm gonna try 0.7, and the saturation. Change this to maybe just 1. Yeah, I think I'm like good with this one now. And for like the other like version, let's rename this. So I click this comp, press enter, and then I'm gonna rename this to version 1. So now let's duplicate this. So that would be Command D or Control D. So this is now version 2. Let's go inside version 2. I'm gonna double click this now, and let's try like a different color, a different mood to this. Okay, so for like the shadow, so I'm gonna change the color of this. Instead of this, you can actually like try a different color. So when you're trying out different lighting, like try to like match it with like what you want to achieve. Like if this is like a personal project, so there's no brief, so like create your own brief, right? So like for example, what if we want this to be nighttime, right? So the color of the shadows and like during the night is like we have this like bluish like color. And sometimes we have a misconception that if it's nighttime, it's already black, right? But um, it's also possible that it's nighttime, but there's like a lot of like light source coming from bars or houses or street lights. And but you should like create your own like brief. You should like try to incorporate those whenever you try like different lighting. So I'm gonna try like maybe she is like outside and it's around um 6 or 7 p.m. And so it's gonna have something like that. But the color here shouldn't be warm, so I'm gonna change like the adjustment layer. This one, the tint color, instead of warm, I'm gonna make it like something like this. And also, um, if we're, I'm going to like turn on the solo mode here. So this is like the shadow, right? So I'm gonna like click this one. That's the shadow. And we are like we have that like shadow layer on top of the base color. So this is the base color, this is the shadow. If you add at, that's gonna look like that. And if we add in, so we have like three layers: the base color, and then we have the shadow. And the shadow, we punched a hole using the base shading. And then we have a layer on top of that, which is the highlight, which is this one. And currently it's white, right? Because we added like the fill effect. That's the reason why on the very top we have the line art only, which is this, right? So what I want to do, because we don't have a control over the color of this one, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to reveal this one, the base shading. I'm gonna reveal that one, and then I'm gonna like add a fill effect to this. And now we have control. I could now control this with whatever color that I want, with whatever blending mode that I want. So let's try adding overlay to this. So actually, I'm just also trying out like different things with like the overlay and multiply, and see how that works. So let's try. So it's not like adding like much. Let me like hide the glow, and let's see if it's like adding like if it has like any effect here. And also the highlight, we could change that to whatever like color that we want. So maybe if we add in like a different color, maybe this one also have like a different like effect, right? But we want this to be nighttime, so maybe something like this, like a neon color, something like that. So maybe there's like a light source here, like a bright light source. And we're gonna change now the background, this one. So we can add fill to this so that it's like easy to like change the like background color, and maybe make this to something dark. And then let's turn on like the glow. So it looks like this now. Let's preview. So this is like another like effect. But I want this to be the brightest, not this one here. So I'm gonna change this. Instead of overlay, the overlay is like making things like much brighter. I'm going to change this to maybe multiply. And I'm just going to like change the color. Wait, I'm just gonna like have a look. This one's like really like bright, so I'm changing this to multiply is good, but let's try like different opacity. Or if this is our like color that we use, we just need to make this a bit darker. So this one has like a different effect, and the contrast isn't really good with the background. So let's make the background a bit brighter. And we have this, and let's try. So I'm gonna collapse this glow. Let's try this glow. Let's turn it off. Doesn't have much effect, but this one also doesn't have much effect. Let's make the highlight a bit brighter. So I'm gonna like bring this closer to white, and it looks like that. But I want this to like really like glow. So I'm just gonna change this to 1. So we have that glow now. And the glow threshold, I'm gonna like bring this back. And the glow radius. And now for like the shadow, let's adjust the opacity. Maybe make this 65%. And this one, make it about 20 or 10. If I bring this to 0, it's also like working. So we have removed now the like multiply, but let's bring this back again. I'm gonna make this to 75 and this one to 20, or bring this to 100. Or I think the multiply, let's change this again to could try like different things like color burn, or add. It has now a different effect. Or let's try screen. So so I just like realized something, that if I turn the base shading to like lower percent, this one also like changes, right? I don't want that because it's taking off control. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this to 100, and I'm just gonna duplicate this so that we have like a separate control for this specific layer. So I'm gonna bring this again to multiply, so that this one, uh, this layer relies on like the opacity of this one. So I created like a duplicate of this so that it's not, the shadow won't be reliant on this, right? So I have like created a separate control on this one, and that's like what I want. For the highlight, let's change the color. We could even like add in like blending mode to this, like maybe add instead of like normal, so that we have like see a different effect. If I'm gonna bring it to normal, it's gonna look like that. And I'm just gonna bring this to add. I'm gonna change like the color of this, something like this. Yeah, I think I'm good with the second one. I think we're good with this. It seems like there's like a strong light source here. And let's try a different, so we have version 1. This is version 2. Let's try a different version. So I'm just gonna duplicate this one. That's Command D or Control D. And let's go inside version 3. And I'm thinking, what brief should we like give ourselves? Because this one is nighttime, right? So this is like probably like there's like a full moon, probably strong like light source, and maybe like some lights in the background, and that's why we have this effect. But for this one, I'm thinking, what should we? I don't know. I don't have any like brief. I couldn't like think anything right now. So I'm just gonna try different colors. This is going to be some sort of like experimental. So I'm just gonna try like a different color, and you could like use you can use like color theory, complementary colors. So I don't know what I'm like going for here. So I'm just like trying like different color. Let's try green. And if that's green, I want this one to be warm. But I don't want it to be this strong. I mean the glow. So I'm gonna turn off the glow for now. So I'm just gonna hide this. So I could like focus on like the colors. And for the highlight, let's change this to so I'm just like thinking of like whatever for the color. But it would be good if you have like a reference of like what lighting you want to go for. And for this one, I'm gonna duplicate this, right? And add fill, and maybe I'm gonna like overlay this, and we could now like choose whatever color that we want. So I'm gonna go with this one for the third version. So there we have it. So first version. This is the first version. The second version. And the third version. So that's it. This was a long video, but I hope you learned something today. And congratulations for finishing such a long video. It's a small win, but pat yourself at the back because learning isn't easy and you've taken one step forward in reaching your goals. And that is something. And if you needed more help in frame-by-frame animation, then our membership is always here. You can join our channel. You could click the join button below, or if the join button isn't there, you could click the link in the description. So by joining, you get access to the lesson library, and the lessons in our library are easy to understand, they are well designed, and they are focusing on one concept at a time. There will be lectures, demonstrations, and exercises. There will be drills for you to do, fun drills for you to do, and we will give feedback on your drills. So if you are interested in this kind of learning, then you can join our channel. So that's it. I hope you learned something today, and if you learned something, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks, and I hope to see you in the next video.